everyone told you not to do. Stop doodling, pay attention. But like, it's just cool that we get to use our imaginations to get paid. And I think every one of you will have that aha moment in your career at some point where it's just this like self-realization of how cool it is that we get to essentially like goof off, right? So, you know, like doing some research and looking into presentations and, you know, especially like diving deep into TED Talks, it's like I feel like all these presentations start with this moment of like, look at me, you know, I was like a child prodigy, like it's obvious that I am who I am today because here's the proof of it. So I did some deep diving into my own like photography and just looking at me as a kid, and I found what I think is the perfect image. So I'm just going to present to you what I like to call Colin Big Boy. Yeah, pretty cool. You can see the similarities still. Like I'm still chilling out in the chair, hanging out, like just cruising through life. What's funny is that this dude in high school was voted most likely to join a ska band, if anyone knows what ska is anymore, go to prison, or become a rodeo clown. And the reason was that during high school I was diagnosed with like several learning disabilities and just didn't know what the flip to do. But you know, I was still determined to kind of like push myself and try new things, and I just got really into art through that because I didn't know how to connect in all these other areas. So my big thing was just like hanging out in the art room. Like I said, like look, I'm still just chilling out, just taking it all in. So you know, that learning about these disabilities kind of set me up for thinking of my career and my future in a different way. Also, at the same time, I'm going to make a little reference here that probably most people aren't going to know, but that's okay, I'll explain it. So like in the early 90s, there's a film that Disney released called Cool Runnings, and it's a pretty silly film. It's based on a true story, but it's about 4 Jamaican athletes who decide to compete in the Winter Olympics. The problem was that none of them had ever seen snow, let alone sat in a bobsled. You know, yet with a heavy determination, they set out to show the world what they were capable of. And, you know, there's like one specific moment in the film that really resonated with me, and the coach explains to the team that, like, look, if you want to be the best, you have to be the ones, like, while everyone else is out drinking beer, partying, and goofing off, you have to be the ones in your room, practicing, studying the track, and figuring out your opponent's moves. So this kind of like led me to this big question of like, all right, I've got these learning disabilities, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but yet I feel like I need to go into school. And I found Full Sail, and I felt like this is going to be a perfect fit. But yet I didn't know how I was going to stand out, how I was going to make myself not necessarily the best, but the best that I could be. And I hit on something like halfway through school, and it's this idea that's kind of resonated throughout my career. So let's just dive into it and look at what I like to call the power of personal projects. Like I said, like halfway through school, I had this moment, this aha moment, where it ended up being like the exact moment that I fell in love with personal projects. But Full Sail, you know, with DAD, it's like you get a little bit of everything. But at a certain point, I was introduced to motion graphics, and I was like, my mind was just blown. Like, you mean to tell me I can illustrate and design these things, and now I can breathe life into them through motion? Like, that's absolutely awesome. At the same time, I had begun like this deep dive into Saul Bass, and specifically his work on title designs, and it was just really inspiring everything that I was creating at the time. So I had this crazy idea. What if me and 4 fellow students, like, instead of going off and hanging out for spring break, what if we just like locked ourselves in my apartment and made our own title sequence? The crazy thing is, like, we had no idea what would happen, and we didn't even know how we were going to animate it, like what was going to happen. So we just started with a simple story. I mean, it's like as you can see, it's just like goofy little doodles. Like we drew little like balloon animal characters. Like I think we spent maybe half a day just boarding out the entire thing. And then it came to the point of like, holy crap, we don't know how to animate characters. So we just shot reference for everything. And the reason I share this is because like one of the biggest hurdles with personal projects is just getting started, right? There's always an answer, a reason not to do something, whether it's like, hey, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. But this is proof of like just DIY, just like get as gritty and dirty as possible, because this turned into this. And you know, this is one of my favorite shots in the whole film. But what's fun is that, you know, we were able to get things done just because we didn't care. We didn't care what anyone thought. We didn't care what anyone thought about the process. We just wanted to do it. So we released the film, and it got something like 50,000 views, which at the time was pretty spectacular. But what was even cooler was that I had this observation that the project allowed me to explore my creative interest. And what I mean by that is like the things that I was visually inspired by. And now like looking back, I can see that the Empire was like the beginning stages of what my career has become today. And what I like to call like my visual sense of style. It may not be exactly the same, but you can see the connection between point A and point B where I'm at now. So, you know, I walked away from the project realizing that personal projects create this opportunity for you to explore that visual sense of style and try and find that voice that you're looking for, right? I know a lot of students are trying to find, like, who am I as an artist? And it's kind of hard sometimes with, like, student projects. But with personal projects, you can kind of do whatever the heck you want. No one's telling you what to do. So let's fast forward, you know, to end of school. I'm entering like final portfolio classes, and I already have my website, my portfolio. I've got LinkedIn, resume, like everything. But yet I felt like I was still missing something. See, like with the Empire, we had this really cool piece, but there was 4 other artists, so that meant that people were going to see the project 5 different times. But I wanted something that was like wholly and uniquely mine. So with permission from my teachers, I was like, can I just like go away and make a project and I'll come back? And they approved it. So I locked myself up in my apartment for 2 weeks. I had no idea what I was going to make, and this is what came out of me. Fun, right? Yeah. So I unveiled that during my final presentation, and I mean, even still watching it, I get a little bit of chills, and like it feels inspiring to me. But this time I put it online, and I received my second Vimeo staff pick, and instead of 50,000 views, I got like 500,000 views. And you know, I'm just sitting back and my jaw drops, and it's like, all right, like maybe I'm on to something here. Like people are taking notice of this stuff. Like I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but it's fun. Like I might as well keep trying this. I guess, you know, what also happened was that doors began to open, right? When you have 500,000 like views on something, like people are going to take notice. And from that, you know, doors open. And one of the coolest stories I've had throughout my career, and I don't know really if I've shared this with anyone, but I'm like 2 weeks out from graduating, and I don't have a job lined up. So I'm talking to different studios about an internship. I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna go. But there's one studio that I'm just too scared to like reach out to. Finally, I gained the courage. I drafted that email and I hit send. And almost instantaneously, like we're talking a fraction of a second, I get an email back saying, "Hey Colin, we love your work, let's hop on a call." So I get on my phone later that afternoon, only to realize that at the exact moment I was sending my email to this studio, they were sending a separate email to me offering an internship. And it was just like, this is freaking insane. Like, what a way to start off my career. Here I had been like scared out of my mind about graduating, and I didn't know what I was going to do. But yet, me goofing off and playing around with this personal project opened up the door for me to go where I wanted to go. So, I haven't even graduated yet, and I've learned like two amazing, valuable like ideas, right? Personal projects help find your creative voice, and then they help build that voice and expose it to a broader audience. Well, like, let's fast forward a little bit further. Like 6 months later, after my internship, I decided to dive into freelance. I got a really crazy opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and so I went into it. But it didn't take long for me to burn out. It took me about 3 years. And it was because during the days, I was getting booked as like a 3D generalist, but my passion was with 2D animation. So I would spend nights, weekends, like even the mornings, basically anytime I wasn't at work, working on my own stuff, trying to see how far I could push 2D animation. So like on a Friday afternoon, I made a crazy rash decision. I had a really good booking. I'd been in a studio like freelancing for 1.5 years. And I was like, I just can't take it anymore. And I decided to take a 3-month sabbatical. Don't do this unless you've saved up money. And my thinking was like, all right, if I get out of this, it'll give me some time to think about my place in the industry and how I'm going to reapproach it from a different angle. At the same time, I was like, well, I've got this time. I might as well like make something, right? So I set aside 4 weeks to make a short film, and I thought like, well, maybe if I make this short film, it could explore what it is that I want to be doing. I keep getting booked as a 3D artist, but I really want to do 2D. So I figured if I could at least do like a proof of concept and see if people were interested, if they liked what I was doing, if there was any interest in pursuing this like as a viable like financial option, then this film would be a great way to see if that was possible. And so over the course of 4 weeks, like I said, I created this ode to that chill little dude sitting in the chair, just like full of imagination. And I created When I Grow Up. Well, apparently I wasn't the only one that like needed a little creative kick in the pants, because when I released this film, my world changed. Like, I thought the other two things were cool, but with this project, it has like over 1 million combined like views. I got my 3rd Vimeo staff pick. Disney picked it up for their YouTube channel. It was put on Delta Airlines, like on all domestic flights. And the list goes on. A Paramount Animation brought me in for a general meeting where I got just an amazing mentor from that. And then the coolest part was it like an instant return on my investment. And I got the role of a creative director of a small 2D animation studio. They wanted to bring me up to basically just keep doing this. So that little leap of faith I took in following like what I was passionate about almost instantaneously like paid off. This all happened because I was just playing around and working on things that were inspiring me. The other thing is I walked away from the project feeling re-energized and reconnected with my work. Because like I know even as students, like sometimes we end up feeling disconnected from like what we're making, and we get burnt out. And there's that opportunity when you work on something for yourself to like remember why you do what you do. And for me, that was when I grow up. Now, we'll take a little break with this. So I had to figure out a way to fit this in, because this was a part of a pitch I did a couple years ago. Is for like crisis and first aid in crisis. And I mean, if I want to connect it back to anything, it's like personal projects for me are a form of first aid. Because although we're in a creative industry, there is uncreative times, there's uncreative people, and you do get bashed up and beaten around sometimes. So you've got to, there's that idea of like one for them, one for me. A lot of like mainstream directors do that, and you got to do things for yourself as an artist. So after the success of When I Grow Up, it's 2 months later, I'm up in Seattle. I'm running the animation department in the studio. What's my first idea? Let's make another short film, right? But this time, like, I wanted to try something new. I wanted to attempt like 2D hand-drawn, like frame by frame animation, like the old school, like Disney way. So I wrote a quick story, and I hired a senior animator, because I'm not going to be an idiot and try and figure this out all at the same time. But I hired him to teach me. Like, I wasn't just going to have him animate everything. I sat there and I composited, I painted backgrounds, and we just goofed off and storyboarded together while he taught me the process of animation and how to frame by frame, animate. So let's take a look at the film. It's not bad for a first attempt. I'm pretty proud of it. Not bad, not bad. Thank you. I don't know if you've noticed like this reoccurring theme in all these projects. It's like there's always this moment of like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do, like how I'm gonna make this. But I'm just gonna do it anyways, because no one can tell me otherwise. I think it's a really good thing to think about when creating art for yourself. So like, I'm not gonna dive into a bunch of these like humble brags like the other things, but there was one amazing thing that came out of this project, and that was an invitation to collaborate with Nickelodeon and develop 2 different IPs, 2 different things that hopefully would turn into a film or a series. So here's some sketches from one of the projects. I'm just gonna give you spoiler alert, neither of them were picked up. So I'm not gonna get your hopes up. But it was amazing, because I got to collaborate for like 9 months and learn this process of what that whole industry is like. And what it also did was open my eyes to the opportunity, or the realization that, look, like, this is an opportunity. Like, that's not bad for a dude who started off as a graphic designer. Like, I'm 5 years into my career. I started in graphic design. I've been an animator. Now I'm a creative director of a studio. Now, like, Nickelodeon wants me to create stuff. Like, this is freaking rad. And so, like, looking back, I feel like the other reason like personal projects are amazing, and what I learned from this is like they give you the freedom to experiment. Like I was saying earlier, like no one's telling you what to do. There's no client. You're the client. So it can be as good or as bad as you really want it to be. It's just how involved you want to get. And I don't know if you've also noticed, but like each project, the amount of time it's taken me is exponentially like longer and longer. It's like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. We'll see how long my current project's gonna take. We'll explore that in a bit. But so I left, after 9 months of talking with Nickelodeon, I left, without these projects, and I entered into what I like to call my own personal dark ages. Or the shit show, right? So, like we're moody, we're artists. Like we deal with things like depression. It's real. And, I walked away from that meeting feeling like, well, shit, like I can't do any of this. And then this voice started going in my head, I'm shit. My work is shit. Hell, even my shit is shit. Like I can't even do that good. And the reason I share this is because, like, I dealt with it pretty hardcore. And it was all because in my last meeting, I received this message. It wasn't necessarily this, but this is what I got. And that's, you can't do something until you've done it before. And it's this, like, reoccurring thing that I've heard in some form or another in the industry. And I think it's total bullshit. Because with personal projects, you can do whatever the heck you want. Like, why wait for someone to give you an opportunity when you can create it yourself? And once I had that realization, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let someone tell me that I can't do like original stories, that I can't do long form content. That's really what I want to do. I want to tell emotional stories. I want to get into film and television. So last year, I picked up an old script that had just been sitting around. And it really felt perfect for like the struggles I was going through. And it follows the story of a four-sided polygon that can't get past itself, because in its world, a square is a square, nothing more and nothing less. That really resonated with the idea of like, well, you can't do this until you've done it before. Like, you're not in TV, so you just can't do this. Like, that's not a part of your makeup. Today, you're outside of my close ring of like friends and agents and everyone, like no one has seen this artwork. So, voila. No, I mean, I think it's awesome. It gets me excited. The animation is looking really, really cool, and I'm taking an insane amount of time. I took like 2 weeks on a 5-second shot. So things are growing exponentially as I do this. But it's awesome because it's a simple story. It's the story that I've been waiting for, because I can fully pour myself into, because I feel this character and I can connect with the story that I'm trying to sell. And it's this idea of like dealing with like self-imposed isolation and kind of like boundaries that we put on ourselves or that we let others put on us, and this notion that we aren't good enough, because that's how I felt. I don't think that was anyone's intention with my Nickelodeon thing, but it's just how I ended up feeling. And when I break it down, it's simply just not true. Like, right? We're all good enough in our own ways. And so the point, like, it's not necessarily just to make a cool film, but it's to show that I can make a cool film. It's to show that, you know what, heck, man, like, if you're not going to give me this opportunity, I'll just do it myself. And with trying to move from advertising into more, original content, I figured this would be the best way to do it. To tell my own original story. So, that kind of led me to this realization over this last year that, as I look back, it's been connecting all of my projects. It's this thread that's been there this entire time. And that's personal projects help showcase what you are capable of. When someone won't give you an opportunity, when they won't open the door for you, just keep knocking on it and keep, or just go over and just try and open your own door. And for me, that's what personal projects have really been all about. It's been about, going into the unknown, not knowing what I'm going to do, not knowing what's going to happen on the other end of this project, but like, I've got to do it. Because if I don't, then I'm just killing this piece inside of me, this piece of artist that, like, you can only kill so much of it until it's completely dead. But if you feed into that, you're just going to grow, and your work and your excitement in this is going to keep blossoming. So, to recap kind of the points that I've learned throughout these personal projects, it's that, they find and hone your creative voice. They expose that voice to a broader audience. And then when you're feeling like shit, personal projects help you reconnect with that voice, and they bring healing when you're lost. They also give you an opportunity to experiment and try new things. And then, like I just, shared, like, personal projects are a way to showcase what you are capable of. And like the guys in Cool Runnings, right? Like, at some point in our career, we're gonna all face the situation of feeling like it's us against the world and having to prove that we are capable of something that maybe others don't see quite yet. Whether that's like, hey, I'm a motion graphics artist, but I want to become a writer. Or, I'm in recording and I want to get into, animation. Like, we've got to create those opportunities, and when you do that, unimaginable things happen. Like, I didn't know that I was ever going to be working with Nickelodeon. I didn't know that, like, I was going to be getting calls from Paramount or from Disney. I didn't know that all this stuff was going to happen. I just listened to that voice inside of me that kept telling me to push on. And, if I could end with anything, that's, put yourself out there and become vulnerable and share kind of those creative ideas with the world. Don't be afraid to let them loose. And while you may not, like, follow a similar path to me, I guarantee if you listen to that voice, amazing doors will open. Once again, my name is Colin Hesterly, and we'll continue talking, but, this has just been an awesome week. I kind of feel like this guy right now. I'm a little exhausted. No, but it's just been amazing hanging out with my Full Sail family, and anyone feel free to reach out and connect with me, especially about personal projects when you need someone to, like, just look at it, because sometimes you feel a little crazy working on this stuff because you're being so vulnerable. So thank you.
Okay, I think we have some time for a few questions from the folks that are in the room and then also online, I believe.
It's on. Check. Oh, okay. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Colin. I have a question for you. So I'm a CA student. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up. My name is Isaiah. I'm a CA student here. One of my biggest challenges for me is trying to figure out, like, this is a great presentation because I'm trying to figure out everything, and I get very anxious about my future. I was trying to find out, how did you determine what you're going to actually do after Full Sail? You just kind of honed it down? Because I came here and I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. But I'm trying to figure out that niche for me, like what I really want to do after I graduate Full Sail, and I'm trying to find out, how did you decide to do what you do now?
Yeah. No, I think there's two things that really helped. One was me doing everything I didn't want to do, and that only happened by just trying it. I realized, I really don't want to do this over here. Okay, I'm going to pivot, try something else. And then the other thing was saying yes. Because there was even a point, early on in my career, where I told my wife, look, I never want to be a director. I only want to draw. That just seems like so much work. But then an opportunity came to do this stuff. And my initial reaction was nope, not going to do it. But she forced me in a way. She was just like, dude, just do it. I know you're scared, but just push forward. And that's something that I've really kept close throughout all these years is like, if you're scared to do something, you should probably do it.
Okay.
Because that means there's going to be growth. And there's something fun. There's something that gets you a little high about like taking that leap of faith. But really, I think it's about exploring.
Okay.
Like that's how you find anything you want to do,
Awesome.
anything that's worth doing.
All right.
Hi, my name is Owen Calvetti. I'm a game design student, and my question is, how long should someone generally spend on their first personal project?
However long you want. Honestly, like, okay, so I'm at this place now where last year I met with a business coach because I needed to get my shit together. I mean, it's hard to like create schedules and figure out how to do things as artists. So one of the things that we did was he knew how important like self-initiated work was for me. Like it fills my soul and it helps my client work get even better. So we started with this thing where it's like, all right, every day I'm going to start with like 30 minutes of my day is just devoted to like passion projects. Like a couple weeks went by and he's like, so how do you like that? I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I wish I could do it for an hour. And he's like, why don't you? I was like, okay. So I kept doing that. And before I know it, like now, the first 2 hours of my day are all about passion projects. And then the other 6 are client. But what I found is that like you would think, well, your clients are getting less of your time. Aren't they paying for like the whole day? And it's like, no, not necessarily. What they're paying for is my undivided attention when I am working. And so what's happened is that the more I focus on what matters to me, the faster I move, the more inspired and the more energy and momentum I have by the time I'm working with my clients. Now, all that said, as a student or first starting out, like, what if you spent 5 minutes a day? What if you spent 15 minutes a day? You might not get an entire project done in a month, but eventually that's all going to add up and it's going to snowball into whatever you're trying to do, right? So it doesn't matter how long it takes. I think, as long as you feel creatively fulfilled. Sorry, there's not like a straight answer.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, it's working? Yeah. Hi, my name is Jorge, but we call me George. Well, I am in the career animation and film, but this is my question. I can present my personal project and like the drawings or short history. If I know time for presenting video or maybe just an idea, or when I ready to present this project.
So one thing, I think I'm understanding the question. Like, I mean, one thing that I probably should have like caveated like at the beginning is like personal projects can be anything, right? Like, it doesn't need to be short films. Like for me, that's just the form that it took. One of my buddies, his name is James Curran, but he does this amazing thing where he'll do, it's called a gift-a-thon. And he'll go, like he went to New York, he did LA, and he did Tokyo, but he went to those cities for 30 days, and each day he made a 10-second GIF. And then at the end of it, he had all these GIFs that he put together and put to music. But what that did is that launched his career, and all he does now is make GIFs. And so, it could be anything. A personal project could be sketches. It could be writing a script. It could be making it and self-publishing a zine. Like, it can be whatever you really want it to be. So, and sometimes, you don't have the time to do these big, elaborate projects. Maybe it's something small.
Yeah.
So I think being open to that is really important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a question from LinkedIn, and I think he's not a student anymore, he's probably a graduate. He wanted to know if you can recall your hardest times, and how did you get past it?
Let's see. One of my hardest times was definitely like after working with Nickelodeon. Because it's like, I didn't ask for the opportunity, it just happened. And I was just fully committed and like excited by it. And this idea of like, holy crap, like this is a possibility. And then going to this like realization of no, this is not a possibility, at least right now in this moment. I mean, it sent me into a deep depression of like probably like 2 to 3 years of me like just really battling depression. Meanwhile, I kept working, but I just had a really hard time. And honestly, I stopped doing personal projects up until this last year, or at least short films, because I just felt like, well, what's the point? Like no one's, no one cares anyways. But what helped me get out of that, honestly, is just taking baby steps. It was taking one thing at a time, because I was looking at my issues or my troubles as like this massive lump, this big thing, this mountain that I had to get through. But once I started realizing, like, all right, if I just take it each day, one at a time, each project one at a time, not worry about the results of like my personal project, just start one. Like let's just start one and see what happens. Okay. All right, now let's just work on the storyboards. You don't have to commit to this. Let's just baby steps. And that for me was the only way I could really get out of that funk. I mean, that and therapy, but but you know, I mean, depression and all that stuff is real, and it's real in our industry. So I think whatever you can do to kind of get in a healthy place, in a healthy mind, is what you should do.
Okay, I have a question for one of our online students, Sam Kind. He's in our digital cinematography program. He wanted to know, what advice would you have for someone who's wanting to get into freelance work? Like, where can they go to try to find that type of work, make connections?
Okay, so my first freelance job came, so I was in my internship, that dream internship, and I quit halfway through. I was like, this is not for me, this is not what I dreamt of. And at the same time, like the catalyst, like what helped me to feel comfortable with quitting was a fellow alumni. Someone that I had met like a year earlier, and we'd worked together on a couple little projects and had fun. And he called me up and he was just like, hey dude, do you want to come work on the Oscars? And it was like, okay, like how much can I make? And basically it ended up being like, what I was gonna make in 2 weeks was this, like more than I was gonna make in 6 months at an internship. So for me, it was kind of like, well, all right, I have to try this. Like, I'd be stupid not to. But, you know, and then from there, like, I just started reaching out to studios and, you know, just freelancing with whoever I could. So it's a lot of networking, I think, and cold emails and, you know, doing stuff like that. But I don't necessarily suggest anyone do it the way that I do it, because you're taking a huge risk, especially right out of school, and it's like I've got 6 months before I have to start paying off my loans. I think maybe the smarter way is, if you have a gig, if you have a job, it's, you know, start taking freelance on the side. And there's this idea that once your freelance starts bringing in as much money as your job or more, or it's taking up more of your time, then you quit that job. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how I get into freelance, is just start asking people.
Hi. My question is, which has been the most rewarding moment in your career? And, well, yeah, how you enjoy that moment? I don't know.
Oh man, most rewarding moment of my career. This is pretty cool. Coming back to Hall of Fame week is pretty cool. Golly. I don't know. I have a feeling, honestly, like when I finish this new film, Little Square, I think that's going to be a pretty rewarding thing because it's going to be physical, like embodiment of like me kind of letting go of some shit. But at this point, man, I really don't know. Oh no, there was one moment. 2014, I was inducted into the ADC Young Guns, which is like the top 30 artists under 30. And it was something that I had dreamt of for years, like even in school. And on a whim, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to apply for this. Like, I think I've got a portfolio ready. And I got it. And that was pretty cool. So that was rewarding.
We have another online question. This is from Crystal. She is in our graphic design program. She wanted to know, how do you know when a personal project is ready to share?
It never is. I think like Pixar has that saying, right? Like the film's never complete, you just release it. And I mean, even when I think like something's finished, I'll release it and then I'm like, dang it, like I forgot that. Or like, I think my way of thinking is like a project's never going to be 100% perfect. As long as I've got it like 3/4 of the way to where I was imagining it, that's good enough. Anything after that, it feels like you're just polishing and most people aren't going to see it. At the same time though, I'm a stickler and I frame through all of my animation. Like, I try and keep things as tight as possible, but yeah, I think when you sit back and you look at your project and you get chills, then it's done.
Morning, my name is Ashim Sapkota. I'm in the DAD program, and I have a question, which is, like, when you run into, like, when you're working on a certain project and you have, like, either, like, you don't know what direction you want to go in because there's too many directions, or, like, you don't really know any direction to go in, what is the best way for you to go through that and get to, like, the point where you're satisfied with what you're trying to do?
So, like, what direction to choose, like, on a project?
Yeah.
I think after a while that becomes intuition, but in the early stages, it's really about exploring and experimenting with those ideas. Like, you know, I'm sure like the teachers tell you to like storyboard or brainstorm ideas, and you kind of have to like try and see the project a couple steps ahead, and really like I've started implementing this thing of like, what do I want to get out of a project? Like, what do I want to get out of it creatively? What do I want to get out of it emotionally? All of those things. And whatever then resonates with me the most, that's what I'm going to do, as well as whatever project I think I can finish first, that's what I'm going to do. Because like for me, like Little Square, that's really like the precursor to like the project that I really want to do, which is like a 15-minute hand-drawn film that I cannot do by myself. So it's like, Little Square, I can do that all by myself. It's going to take me like a year. But I'm hoping that that will then open the doors to allow me to do like what I really want to do. So I think it's just this, to answer your question, it's about like, what can you get done fastest or first? And what do you feel like emotionally connected to the most?
Hi, my name is Devin. I'm also a DAD major. My question was just about the basically the mental health thing you'd said before, how you were diagnosed with certain things. I'm also going through that as well. I was just wondering if you ever ran into any speed bumps with that. I know for me, it's like both my creative drive, and it can also kind of hinder me sometimes. But like, did you ever go through anything that kind of held you back because of that? And yeah.
All day, every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, it's all day, every day. I've been doing this a decade, and I still, like, I'll have 2 hours where I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I just do? Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I just stared at my screen for 2 hours, and, like, you know, but what I've learned is, like, the most important thing is self-care. It's, like, for me, that takes shape in going for walks, going to the movies, like basically anything that has nothing to do with my computer or my phone is like self-care. And sometimes I still want to be creative, so it's like, all right, like I'm gonna doodle, or I want to work on my film, but I just need to step away. I'm gonna just storyboard with pencil and paper. The other thing that I've been doing a lot lately is for the 2 hours that I'm working on my personal projects, I just listen to white noise. I just put on like killer headphones and close my office door and just try to drown everything out. Because I feel like if I'm starting the day in a good way, typically the rest of my day goes pretty good. But like if I start and I'm all over the place and I'm letting my emotions kind of take hold and drag me around, I'm fucked.
I have a question from LinkedIn from Lauren Gonzalez. She's in the digital cinematography bachelor's, and she wants to know if there are any books that you have read that have made an impact.
Oh crap, what is it called? There's a couple. Okay, so Jim Henson has a biography that came out in the past couple of years, and if anyone's into the Muppets or Sesame Street, he's an amazing dude. But he struggled with crap just like everyone else. And reading stuff like that is really cool because it levels the playing field. It kind of takes these people off the pedestal and you realize like they are just humans like us. But like in terms of like an actual creative book, I think it's called Directing the Story. It's by like Francis, I can't remember his last name. But it's specifically, he was a Disney story artist for years. I think he worked on Aladdin and different stuff like that. But it's going through like how to successfully like tell a story and storyboard your project out. And for me, that just opened my eyes to take my work from like flat motion graphics look to like this expansive like cinematic experience that I'm trying to emulate. So that was a really cool book.
How you doing? My name's Kelvin. I'm in the computer animation program. You mentioned one for them, one for me. How do you continuously generate inspiration while working for these big studios?
Continuous inspiration. Okay, so at a certain point, it was looking at like blogs and like what everyone else is doing, and then several years ago, I realized that was just like hindering me. Because I kept like pitting myself up against everyone else. Inspiration like comes from everything for me. Like it really is like same as the mental health. It's like me going for a walk, me listening to music. I don't know. I mean I've got like a little folder on my notes in my phone where it's just like I just put down stupid ideas. Everything to me is a stupid idea when it starts, but then like if it sticks around. And like I can't stop thinking about it, then it's like maybe there's something there. And that's like how Little Square started. Like I had the idea like 8 years ago, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to create, but like over time, like it just kept coming up in the back of my mind. And finally it hit, like I had that aha moment at like the perfect point in my career. But I think inspiration comes from kind of anywhere and everywhere. You just have to look for it. Does that answer? Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Can we give Colin one more round of applause? I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Hall of Fame experience. Thanks, guys.